Good evening. Nice to be here. TEDx, how exciting that is. I've seen a lot of great TEDx talks in my time at school and places like that. And I remember one, he was a fireman, and he was sent to a fire, dispatched to a fire, and got there. The house was blazing, and he went to his commander. He said, "Send me in, send me in. I want to save these people, right?" And the commander said, hold off, not yet. Just stand back." And he said, "I watched my partners go in. They were saving the family, right?" And I said, I wanted to be there. Half an hour later, the commander sent him in and said, "Go in now, all right?" He said, "I went in. The fire was low. It was, down. I got in, and I saved a dog." Right? His lesson when he got out of that was, I learned something that night. It's actually best not to go in first sometimes, right? And so I feel like that right now. I'm kind of glad I didn't have to go first tonight. All right. So with that, here I've brought up my presentation here, and morning, noon, and night, finding ourselves in the past, present, and future. And with that, I have a question for you. In your normal daily life, when you're thinking and planning and going about your business, where do you find your awareness and consciousness and realization resides, really? In the past, the present, or the future? And I ask my students these questions, and the majority always say, first they say, oh, the present, definitely the present, the here and now, right now, where I am, right, in my life as it is, right? That's where I am. And some say, oh, the future. I think about my hopes and dreams, where I'm going tomorrow, right? And I know that this is true. And typically we often think that people who are living in the past, it's kind of a negative, right? It seems that these people are not really connected with their present life, and not even really with their hopes and dreams for the future, right? With that said, I have to say that I'm a little bit different from most people, because I do find that I spend most of my time in the past, thinking and remembering my experiences that I've been through, particularly one that I'm going to talk about tonight. And so in that sense, I'm kind of a different person. Now, I found the reason I like it is I found a great deal of joy and happiness in revisiting my past. Yes, there's sometimes some frustration and some difficulties, lessons learned and things like that, but I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm just going to think about the good things and what I have to tell you, okay? My mindfulness tends to go back into the past quite a bit, okay? I find that the past, I see it as a story well told. It's a story with a beginning, a middle, and a dénouement, as we say in French, pardon my French, an ending, a conclusion. And so I like that. I don't get that as much in the present, and certainly not in the future, right? Okay. So these subjects, as I have up here, they've filled my mind and my awareness quite a bit recently. And I feel that probably most of you are comfortable with these subjects, and so I think we're, in a good place where we can talk. Okay. Now, to go from there, I have a few quotes from people who have said some things. And I'll start with a wise man, me, once said, "The future beckons, one hopes, but the move to the future only creates a more commodious past, which beckons in the opposite direction." And so we see here that the future is not all that we reckon. It's actually closely connected to the past, and we might say the present. Another quote is from St. Augustine, and he wrote in Confessions that we can apprehend the idea of a continuous eternity in lived experience, past, present, and future unified. Paradoxically, they become one. Life, he went on, that a backward look at experienced past events creates a present considering the past, memory. Current grasp provides a present considering the present, immediate awareness. And a recognition of the importance of lived historical experience anticipates the future, expectation. Again, we see that future, past, and present are melding into one. And meanwhile, one other author writing about the history of the Arab nation wrote, "In the face of an uncertain future, there is no better guide than the past. All too often in the West, we discount the current value of history. As political commentator George Will has written, when Americans say of something, 'That's history,' they mean it is irrelevant." Nothing could be further from the truth. People need to pay more attention to their history if they hope to understand the roots of their own challenges and difficulties, to say nothing of their hopes and dreams. Now, I could no doubt find some good quotes about the present and the future, but I'll let these stand as they are now, okay? So really, that's my position, right? I take on the past, and I'll have more to say about that. Yes, there have been some difficulties. There have been some hard lessons that I've learned, but I'm not going to dwell on those. I will mostly just think about the good things tonight, okay? I remember the good things, okay? Now myself, I have a commodious past myself. I'm not a young man anymore. From my youth in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to my young adulthood in San Francisco, where at one point I returned to college at the age of 29, one of the happiest periods of my life, to my next phase, education in Boston, and then my life as a professional writer, to my life in Taiwan, where I have been becoming aging, but where I have had a lot of good memories and great experiences in Taiwan. And so it's been really good. A lot of good things I could remember. In fact, one of the best things that happened in Taiwan was in 2016, June 23rd, my daughter, Ariadne, was born. The happiest day of my life. And I know that some of you know exactly what I mean. There's nothing like having a child. In fact, some of you are young. I have a piece of advice for you about having a child. Don't wait forever. Don't wait forever to do it. Okay? I waited too long myself. Don't wait forever. It's the happiest day of your life, and you're going to like it when it happens. She knows what I mean, and he knows what I mean, so take that with you. Okay. All right. Ariadne was born. Ariadne. And something happened with Ariadne that is the basis of my talk today, the memories that I want to recount for you. And that is that from soon after she was born, for the next 2 years, Ariadne and I went on walks together every single day. We went on 2 walks a day. For the first year and a half after she was born, she was in a stroller. For about the next 6 months after that, she was on feet. And we went for a walk from 10 to 12 in the morning, and sometimes later, and from 5 to 7 in the evening, and sometimes later. And we had so many wonderful walks together, right? Walking in the park in front of our house, up and down in the park, walking under the bridge in front of our house to get her out from under from the sun. She loved going to Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall. She loved playing with the flagpole over there. And all the other places we went together, the children's centers. She loved the one called Bear's World. Some of you probably know that one. Museums and libraries and restaurants and subway stations. Beiman and Zhongshan Fuxing were her favorites, the long walk under there. And we just, all of these great walks that we had together. And actually there was I remember the last walk that we had together, right? Because the walks did stop, right? We've sort of taken them up again in a way, but they stopped at one point. And the last walk that we had together was in October 2018. And on that walk, we were walking in the park in front of the house. And we walked across this green area in the park. We weren't walking on the path. And it was starting to rain. And as it started to rain, there's my picture. Ari took out an umbrella, and I snapped a picture of her. And I just thought that was just so much fun. And that's just one more great And so at that point, and even that same day, this was in the morning, that same evening, we did not go on the walk, and so they had stopped. There was another walk we took, a third walk. For about the first year, on the roof of our apartment, I would walk up there from 8:30 to 9:30 at night, and carrying her in this carry sack in front of me, I would walk from back and forth across the roof. And I thought that she liked the sound of the traffic down below, and she would just start snoozing quietly in the sack, and I would walk for about an hour carrying her. So that was our other walk. And I noticed one thing that almost was a bit of a regret, that when I was walking her up on the roof, I didn't really talk to her that much because she was just snoozing quietly. And that bothered me a little. And that also happened on our walks on the street in the stroller, because sometimes the traffic noise would be a bit too much, and I couldn't really talk down to her much. And I didn't talk to her much, so I didn't really teach her much about speaking English at that time. There's a little small regret I have with that. More on that later. But in spite of that whatever regret that I have, there were so many good memories, and just really these memories are just the height of joy for me. And just so to go back to them, it just gives me something amazing. Okay, and now I'd like to share a few sort of memories that I have of Ari, because often, even today, I talk to Ari in my mind, and I remember in my mind, and as I'm remembering her, I remember some things. I say, hey, Ari, remember the time we crossed the long bridge over in the park and walked all the way home, and how for the last half mile you fell asleep and I had to carry you all the way home? Remember that? Remember the time we danced on the hillside with the airplanes flying around with the other children? Remember the time you marched up that little slough filled with water in the park and you got all soaking wet and I had to walk you to the laundromat to dry your clothes? Remember that? Remember the time that we lay on the grass in front of the baseball field that you liked so much, and we lay back and we looked up at the full moon together, and then you asked me, carry me, and then you were looking up at the moon yourself? Remember the time I was walking out the front door to go off to the park for my study time, and you bolted across the living room yelling, "Goodbye, Daddy. Take care. Have a nice day. I love you." And I was so proud of you, and I thought, her English is getting better, okay? I could go on. There have been countless other times and walks, and I know many of you know just exactly what I mean. Other parks and other libraries and other children's centers and other department stores, and just on I could go, okay? So you can see, as what I'm saying now, I don't spend a whole lot of time dwelling on the present, much less the future. And so you might be blaming me, you might be accusing me, well, you seem to live in the past, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But again, I find a great feeling with the complete quality of the memories in my mind, and I like to relive them in what is my here and now. I enjoy it. It makes me happy. Ariadne has made me happier than I've ever been in my life. And again, I know some of you know what I mean. Okay. I found that when you examine memory, you'll often find that there's a lot more in there than you even realized you had. And that's a really pleasurable experience, sort of going along what's called the memory trace and finding that you'll recover more. Right. It's kind of interesting. In that light, I had some things to say. Right, here they are. I was thinking that when scientists study memory, they often gather together just like words and numbers and syllables and lists and letters, and they give that to their subjects and ask them to sort of remember them in certain ways. Well, my memory, I don't think scientists would study my memory that way. My memory is a lot more narrative-oriented than that. And in that sense, I'm drawn to a scientist named David Carr of Emory University. And he said that there's a community of form between life and narrative. And narrative structure arises out of and is prefigured in features of life, action, and communication. And I find that this narrative of memories, my own narrative of memories, fits that. There's a continuity, not a disparity, between life memories and narrative. And the actions of life can be viewed as you're telling yourself a story, right? So this is sort of a semantic memory process I'm involved in with sort of broad-scale conceptions and descriptions that are stored in my long-term memory. Another scientist, Hermann Ebbinghaus, a German researcher, he said that memory can be recovered spontaneously and involuntarily. That's not quite where I'm at. I feel like I am voluntarily recovering my memories. But he went on that memory was brought about through the instrumentality of immediate present mental images. And the overlap of past and present seems to fit my own method of memory keeping. Ebbinghaus's memory has been described in terms of autobiographical and involuntary semantic memory retrieval. And that seems to fit sort of where I'm after, okay? Okay. I've noticed that without a photographic memory, if you don't have that, you actually lose a lot of memory. You forget a lot. And in between the flashbulb memories that we value so much, a lot of images and pictures and experiences that you had, they can sort of disappear. And so that can create some sadness, and I felt that with Ariadne. I think I have more to say about that later. A lot is lost in memory too, and that's kind of tough, okay? Myself, on that note, that I've noticed that, well, I'm not quite sure how to say that, but I just can think that I wish I could go back in time to recover all that memory. And I keep thinking, H.G. Wells, where are you now? I need you. I've sometimes thought that maybe I could recover these memories in dreams, but that doesn't seem to happen that much for whatever reason, okay? So through all of that, you can see I'm a time traveler. I travel back in time. And I've noticed and I've thought to myself that, and again, you're saying, well, you're sort of detaching yourself from the here and now, much less the future. But I found that in a way, there really is no here and now, right? The here and now, as we experience it, disappears into the past instantly, right? What I said 10 minutes ago is already a memory, right? Nothing like the memories I've been telling you, but it is just that. And so that's an interesting point. There really is no here and now. Everything disappears into memory. And you might ask, well, what is the here and now? Is it right now, this instant? Or is it today? Or this week? Or maybe this month? Or maybe even further down the line? But when we talk about next week and next month, we're actually looking to the future. It's not really a question of the here and now. So that's my point. There is no here and now. And so maybe memory is yet more important. Okay, and the future for me is really too far away. It's hard for me to visualize, right? I don't know what's going to happen. Sure, I have certain hopes and dreams, right? But they're not here yet. And so I don't quite see myself wrapping my arms around that and really grasping it. Not really. And I would even go on to say that, in 10 or 20 years, I'm going to be old, all right? And as we say in English, getting old's okay? And so do I really want to visualize that future when I'm, becoming an old man? I'm not quite sure I do. Now, true, Ari might be 27 or 35 years old then, and there may be much great happiness involved in that. That's very possibly true. But my own take on it is not quite as firm, okay? All right. Now, I have one more saying here that I'd like to share with you. I don't know the source of this. I saw it in a newspaper somewhere. It says, to see one's past, look at one's present situation. To see one's future, look at one's present preparations. I might reword this to say, to see one's present and a glimpse of one's future, review one's past and review it well. Okay. So that's who I am, the time traveler. And I have learned something valuable in my time travels. You talk about lessons learned in your life, and I have learned a lesson. I've learned how to give my unstinting love to somebody, to my daughter, and to give to her generously and to protect her at all times, to keep her safe and comfortable and happy at all times. And that has been my life. It certainly was my life for those 2 years I talked about. And there's no better life in the world. I'm a lucky man. I'm a lucky man. Thank you, Ariadne. I haven't necessarily given that generosity to everyone else I know, but it is a lesson I've learned, and it's something I can take with me, okay? And in a sense, I say it's a lesson learned, but I don't think of my experience with Ariadne as having learned a lesson. It was just enjoyable and valuable in its own right for all that it was, and I couldn't be happier. Okay. So, that's my conclusion. You can add it up for yourself. Look to your past, right? I know the present has its value, and the future has its own value, but look to your past. There are great lessons to be learned there, great things to be taken away from there, and carry them with you. Carry them with you. And I think we'll all find that your past will lead to better presents and better futures, better mornings, noons, and nights. Thank you very much for having me.